Paradigm Shift, episode 202. We are live in the speaking engagement in Atlantic City, and we have a very special partner. How's everybody doing? We have not one but two dynamic, awesome guests on today, and I couldn't be more excited. Let's get this party started, baby. Atlantic City, I haven't been here in years. Sure has changed a little bit, but we'll come to the end. Dr. Ellen, I see you. We're going to bring you on in less than three. I see you having a beautiful weekend. I just brought you on, Dave. Is it not going through? Waiting for Uncle Dave to hop on. I accepted the request. Not sure why it's not going through. There he is.
Hey
Hi.
man, it wasn't loading.
Oh, no. I don't have the best service here. I feel like you right now, always on the road. But it's good to
Yeah,
see you.
that's good, man. Where are you?
I'm in Atlantic City. I was
Nice. What are you
speak.
doing?
I was speaking.
What event?
Uh, Clinton and Nick.
What does that mean? Clinton and Nick.
Your friends that I met at your event. It's MMA, like gym owners and schools and stuff like that.
Cl-
Clinton O.
oh, Clinton. Oh, and Nick Tono?
Nick D.
Nick D. Oh, right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, tell Clinton O to give me a call.
Okay, I will. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Very good.
Where are you?
I'm at home.
Nice. Okay.
I got a start tomorrow. We start with Paramount. I'm going to the Grammy Awards with the Paramount execs and the AG execs, and then I'll go film Go Fund Yourself on Monday. Charlotte, the Aspire, invite everybody to come see Ed Mylett, David Goggins, myself, and the crew. And Ed's speaking at 9. I speak at like 12, and then I fly to the Super Bowl. And we're launching, our Sirius XM stuff on Radio Row. I got it. Cool Players Impact. Marshall Falk, Ray Lewis, me, Calvin Johnson, Patrick Peterson, and Mike Tannenbaum are doing the Players Impact event. And then we're launching the More Than Enough sandwich, the No Po' Boy itself. So very, very good.
What's going to be on the sandwich?
Double, double prime rib, double vegetables, double sauce, double bread, double everything. It's more than enough of everything.
It sounds iconic. Will you please take a picture of you eating one?
Yeah, 1 o'clock on Friday. I'm inviting everybody to Ike's Love and Sandwiches in the French Quarter. Come and meet us 1 o'clock. Michael Chandler will be there. Marshall Falk, all the boys. We're all celebrating the world of abundance of more than enough of everything.
Beautiful. I love it. I'm going to bring on our first guest in just a second, but I love that you're always at the Super Bowl. The energy there, the events that you throw. It's a pretty cool energy out there for the Super
Yeah,
Bowl, huh?
very good.
Prediction for the game?
I hate to bet against, so I'm almost guaranteeing a Kansas City victory by picking a Eagles victory, but I'm picking an Eagles victory.
I like it. There she is. Hi, Dr. Ellen.
Hi there.
How are you? Thank you for hopping on.
Thanks for having me.
Where are you located?
I'm in New York City.
Really?
There you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
That's where I usually am. I didn't know that. Didn't know as a person. Well, it's great to see you. I love your content. It's so helpful. Our community is in for a real treat today. We just dive right in. You're the queen at talking about anxiety, and there's a couple different kinds that you talk about, and the way you articulate is very beautiful. How should we treat or navigate true anxiety, and what actually is true anxiety?
Yeah. So true anxiety, I almost think of it as the negative space after we address false anxiety. True anxiety is the purposeful anxiety. It's not even something we should pathologize or try to suppress. This is our inner compass nudging us, asking us to pay attention to what's out of alignment, whether that's in our personal lives, in our communities, in the world at large. And so this is something to not try to squash down, but it's something to get better at listening to, honoring, letting it fuel purposeful action.
Beautiful. You see, it's so simple the way you describe it.
I love it.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because I love your advice. I'm not a doctor at all, and but I deal a lot with the executives that I'm coaching in anxiety, or I call the interference between us and our source to be a better resource. Um, the reaction to fear, for me, is what I work most on. I don't know what form of anxiety that is, and need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful, whatever else executives do to get in their own way. But within the context, whether you define it as true or false, um, the reaction to fear, regardless of what the fear is truly that which interferes with the source, or us being a greater resource. Um, when we react to fear in one of these forms that I just listed out quite quickly, what type of anxiety do you define that as? And is there something better to focus in on other than our reaction to fear to shorten the distance of resistance that we create?
Yeah.
Great question.
So I think it's really
Well,
critical.
thank you, Craig.
I think actually it's critical to define false anxiety because it's creating a lot of the noise and a lot of the fear that we're experiencing. And our mind tells us a story that that fear is related to our circumstances, related to the stressors in our lives. There's always validity to that, but it's not usually the whole story. And a lot of the time, what's going on is that something is physically out of balance in our bodies, and that's generating a stress response, and it's amplifying the fear response. Sometimes it's single-handedly responsible for our state of anxiety in any given moment. So what we really want to do is identify, when is our body getting physically out of balance? When is that generating a stress response, which can feel identical to fear, anxiety, even panic? And then we want to address it on the level of the body. And it's usually pretty innocuous things. It's things like a blood sugar crash. It could be a bad night of sleep. It can be an extra coffee that day. It could be a hangover. These things generate a state of stress in the body, and our sweet mind doesn't know the difference between a truly stressful situation and a physically induced stress response. So we can address all that and eliminate a lot of unnecessary suffering.
Beautiful. When you talk about physical manifestations of anxiety, are the things that you just listed some of those?
Yeah, but there's a two-way street here. And the part that our culture always focuses on is that our anxiety impacts our body. That's true. If we're always stressed, if we're always anxious, it's going to affect our digestion. It can make our heart race. It can make us breathe more rapidly and more shallowly. But that's actually not my hot take on anxiety at all. What I'm here to try to open our minds to is that it's a two-way street. There's two directions of traffic. And the part we're not yet acknowledging is that the state of the physical body is influencing the mind, that's actually generating anxiety. And what's interesting is that we think of states like anxiety as these heavy duty, retractable mental health states. But sometimes a lot of that suffering doesn't need to be happening. It's just a result of physical imbalance.
You know, it's
Beautiful.
interesting you use the word suffering, because there is a difference between the pain, or the indication of anxiety, versus the psychological effect of anxiety, which is suffering. Suffering is a choice. It's a meaning that we give to it. And I also subscribe, like you do, understanding in the relevance of time, how much time are we spending in anxiety with this parasympathetic and response of our own emotions. So I will talk about utilizing what you may define as anxiety to get us up, get us started, get us back up, get us back started. It won't get you to where you want to be or better, because eventually cortisol will take care of interfering with where we want to be or better. But it is a rocket fuel. And we utilize that fuel to what I define as motivate us, not inspire us. But a lot of people wonder why they can't get it from 0 to 1, even though they have AI, which will get them from 0 to 1, emotionally get them from 0 to 1. once again, I'm not a doctor. I have just experienced and studied the interference with me and this omniscient, all powerful source of energy that I belong to. Do you believe anxiety can be used in a positive, progressive manner aligned with where you want to be or better?
That's a great question. I think people use it. I don't think it's the best tool for that. So I think that certainly we can generate all kinds of output if we're just riding on the fumes of anxiety. But it's, as you mentioned, it's not sustainable. It doesn't make for a very good relationship to the suffering in our lives. And I think that a better reframe, and this is really what my second book is about. This is what I'm writing and working on right now. It's completely different. It's called Season of the Witch, different kind of conversation, but it's really looking at these questions from a psycho-spiritual lens. Because I think that when are we needing that fuel to get us going? I think it's usually when we are overdue for deep rest and restoration. And I think our culture is living in this state of imbalance. If you think about the yin and the yang, we're all yang all the time, very little yin. We systematically devalue yin. So we're just out of balance. And then we're thinking, why can't I be more productive? Why can't I be more focused? And our bodies are saying, we are completely lopsided right now. And we need to embrace yin and rest and surrender and non-doing in order to reset the cycle, to restore ourselves. And also because we get to enjoy the fact that we are human beings, not just human doings. But I think that even your original question about when someone's feeling fear and we get in our own way, I always come back to intention because like I'll experience nerves before a big talk and I'll think, are they going to like my talk? Are they going to agree with my views? All these things will come up. And I always come back to what I, at this point, have come out of the closet saying, I call it a prayer now. I used to be squeamish about that term, but it's really just setting intention. And if our intention is fundamentally to be of service, what can really go wrong? We're up there just doing our reasonable best. We're not perfect. That's not the goal. We're doing our reasonable best to be of service, to offer something that could connect to somebody, be helpful to somebody. And it's all we can ever do. Put ourselves out there. If people judge, if people don't like it, it's sort of less important when we know that we were in alignment with our true intention.
I love this so much. What you just described to me is a shift in consciousness, right?
Yeah.
So if you're still worried about how you look, how you sound as the food in your teeth, you're connected to the ego. But when you make it just about how can I share here and elevate people, it's hard to feel any of those things.
That's beautifully said. That's exactly right. We're just getting out of the ego mind, which is I want, I need, I'll be judged. There's scarcity there, there's failure there, and that was never the
Judgment,
gig.
yeah,
And it's
never the gig.
actually, it's a mirage, right? That's not who we truly are. And so it has something to do with what are we doing here on earth? We're having this experience as an individual, as an ego. So we have these parameters we have to work with. But I find that over and over, I repeat myself to, I just come back to that intention that I'm here with a unique set of perspectives and insights and experiences. And I'm going to fuel that into my art, into some offering, and pray that it can be of service. And then you're out of the ego mind, and there really isn't scarcity or failure from that stance of intention.
When I
Beautiful.
And I think, part of that FOPO, fear of other people's opinion, can be transitioned into what I call JOPO, which is the joy of other people's opinion, in the respect that so many people, especially in social media, there's a ton of just bullshitters, and people get ripped off every day because, whether you're on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whether you're on YouTube, there's just a ton of people. I can increase your engagement. Well, first of all, fuck you and bullshit. So, and I mean that thoroughly because I don't give a fuck, excuse my language, but I'm tired of my clients getting ripped off and my friends getting ripped off. I don't give a fuck like how much engagement I have because there's 7.6 billion people and the truth is if everybody was engaged in what I was saying, I'd be screwed. I couldn't function. Like everywhere I walked, everybody would be like, "Oh my god, I love Dave Meltzer. Oh my god, I hate Dave Meltzer." And that would be a shitty life. So what I'm more interested in, whether I step on a stage, what I do with my post production content, my live things with email, social media, I'm only worried about who is subscribing and who is unsubscribing, who is engaged and who is anti. because those are the people I'm resonating with. And those are the people that I can teach and impact and empower. Most of the people, the apathetic people that live their lives like tubes every day, food in, food out, you know, I don't care if you lie to me and tell me you can get some false engagement. Engagement is who we're impacting, like you said, being of service and of value. And part of that is to evoke or perturbate a negative response that I said something that pissed you off and you don't like. Thank you. You owe me one because now you have something to learn. And I'm engaging you even though I much prefer people love me and be engaged and learn the positive lessons and agree with me. But I learn more from people who disagree with me, and they should learn more from if they disagree with me as well. And this engagement issue is a huge issue about this FOPO, the fear of other people's opinion. I'm encouraging people to listen to that JOPO and JOMO, by the way, joy of missing out, joy of other people's opinion, and really understand what engagement means in the realm of connectivity of individuals within a system unified by thought and intention of what we do, say, think, and believe. So, Dr. Ellen, you're doing great work, and I'm just excited to to know you more, your books more. I want to learn from an official doctor if the bullshit that I throw out there, if any of it has scientific proof to it. I'm super open and positive that I can learn a lot from you. So thank you.
Likewise, every word of that, amen. The FOPO and the JOPO, and it's. I think that. I mean, we always want to think about what energy are we adding to the pool, to this field of consciousness, and there are some cheap ways to get engagement, and they usually require preying on people's fear response or uncertainty or doubt or controversy. And it certainly does get an increasingly large share of attention, more clicks, more ad revenue, whatever is the outcome. But sometimes everybody's mental health is the collateral damage. So I can't play the full game of Instagram these days, feeding the beast, coming up with what's going to get engagement, because that's not actually the quality of what I want to add to the pool. And I think that as a recovering perfectionist, I've focused a lot on shifting my focus away from the outcome. How do we control the outcome? And it's really a refocusing back on the process. And the process is just you show up and you do your reasonable best. And that's all we can ever do. And that is enough. And whether people click or engage or not, that's not really our business.
Beautiful. This was amazing. Can't wait to connect with you further, like Dave was saying. Before you jump, what's the best place for our community to kind of stay involved? And when is that second book coming out?
Yeah, well, right here, when I do choose to post at Ellen Vora, MD, this is where I spend time. And then the second book, Season of the Witch, comes out about a year from now. But my first book, The Anatomy of Anxiety, that's been out since 2022, and that's evergreen. We still need support with our mental health, with our anxiety. And my hope is that someone can get the gist of that book, that there's a lot of unnecessary suffering. It doesn't have to be happening. And there are very slight adjustments to our lifestyles that can remove a lot of unnecessary anxiety, panic, sleeplessness. It's very treatable. And so the anatomy of
Beautiful.
anxiety can hopefully bring some people some relief.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was
Thank
amazing.
you both. Thanks for doing what you
Nice
do.
to meet you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll back that one.
Bye.
All right, Dave. We got some heavy hitters today.
Yes, we do.
Uh, okay. I'm going to bring on Ashley. And this is great. Where's Julie?
In the other room. You want her here?
Hello.
There she is. Hi, friend.
She's here. Hi, friend. It's good to see you both.
How
Great to
are
see
you?
you.
I'm good. I'm living in LA, so it's like a little bit of the dust settling here. But I was just tuning into your conversation, and I was thinking about how interesting it is that like there's so many businesses and brands that your livelihood, your money, your ability to pay your bills, put food on the table is tied to often how many people like your content, how many people engage with your content, and we are just living in this world where a lot of people have a lot of pressure on them. So I think it was beautiful that you had that conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad it
Yeah.
resonated. I love all the things that you post too.
Thank
I know
you.
you and I, we only got together a couple times, but it was instant chemistry.
Yeah.
You're the queen at building your brand and a lot of things that you talk about when really trying to resonate with more people so that you can help them. is actually some stuff that Dave utilizes too a lot.
Yeah.
And that is when sharing stories, talking about lessons from your origin story and
Yeah.
adversity. And when you're willing to be vulnerable and share those, it really helps people connect and relate to you in a bigger way, right?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about storytelling. Over at Wise Whisper Agency, we've helped hundreds of people craft their signature talk, and a lot of them get their spot on the TEDx stage specifically because to me, with 42 million subscribers, it's the biggest stage in the world. And so to me, being able to help somebody figure out how to communicate their story is one of the biggest gifts I can give them because ultimately, as we interact with people, we often don't think about the most asked question we get, which is tell me about yourself, whether it's in being invited into an elevator pitch or being in front of a room. It's the most lost opportunity. And I think it's because it's so sneakily obvious that we don't think, well, let's think about how we want to share who we are. And what I will say about stories is that there's really two different ways I see people tell stories. And there's one that I think is a lot better. The first way is referencing something. So, for example, I could say to you, I was on the beach with my sister and we had a really hard conversation. That's referencing something, that's looking back at something. But a good storyteller knows how to invite people into a moment in time, into a flashback. So instead of saying, I had a hard conversation on the beach with my sister, if I said, Craig, just last week, I was sitting at the beach in Malibu and this like the cold wave was on my toes and I looked up and I saw my sister and there were tears in her eyes and she sat down with me and I knew we were about to have a really tough conversation that was going to change things between us. It's like I painted a picture, I brought you into a moment. And great storytellers understand that when they're stepping on a stage, that they have the opportunity to bring people into a moment. And the best storytellers help people experience a range of emotions. And it's not from a manipulative place, it's from a deeply vulnerable place because there's so many people, especially influencer businesses, where they'll say, "Man, I've been writing about cooking or I've been writing about weight loss for so long. I don't want to write about that anymore. I want to talk about mindset or this or that." And a lot of content creators will come to me and say, "Wow, how do I stay relevant? I've got X amount of followers who want to hear about recipes from me and I don't want to talk about that anymore." And my friend Andrea Crowder has talked to me about this a lot. It's this idea that what makes you relevance is resonance. It's deeply resonating with what you're saying in the first place. And that's what got you a following. That's what got you people engaging with you in the first place, is this deep sense of resonance. And so my answer to anybody about whether they'll stay relevant or not as a storyteller, as a content creator, as a brand, is to tune in first to your resonance, because that self resonance is what got you there in the first place. And obviously, some people will stay with you, some people will go. But I could talk forever about storytelling. You can see it. But this is just my opener, friends.
I love you. Dave, you're one of the
Yeah,
best storytellers there
right.
are. What's coming
Mm,
through for you?
Yeah, some of them are
yeah.
true, which makes it really interesting. So more importantly, for me, I can't stress enough how right on point this is. And so one of the key practices that I have is that I'm codifying and repositing that which resonates with me. And it used to be only the positive thing. So I'd hear someone say, my mom told me you're either humble or you're about to be. And that like hit my heart. I'm like, oh my God, that is my life story. And I love that. And I go ahead and email or text myself, put it into a folder. And then on Sundays, I have a capture folder. I create stories, true, untrue, mixed stories that best describe a feeling of that capture of that which resonates with me. But what I found to be even more remarkable today, besides that which most people think about when they say, that's hitting my core, that's my essence, this is how I feel very strongly about that, is the opposite.
Mhm.
Just in the last few years, learning when somebody pisses me off by what they say and I strongly disagree with it is actually more important in my own self exploration of knowing what makes me tick and allowing me to create stories around that which is upsetting in the interference. what gives me a need to be right or a need to be offended, sometimes a need to be angry or worried or anxious. All of those feelings can help in the storytelling to help other people transform the interference in that divine direction and create this detour that isn't punishment or isn't interfering, but becomes a divine detour
Yeah.
and allows for people to transform. And as you know, and I know that in speaking so many times, almost every day, is how we make people feel. But we can't be afraid of making people feel uh, angry or worried or anxious. We can't just make them feel good. And the greatest speakers that I surround myself with are the ones that are brave enough to be vulnerable, to know their essence about what they stand for, but also what pisses them
Yeah.
off and aren't afraid of pissing other people off as well. And so this is the core to speaking. And
Yeah.
it started, if you look at Sanskrit, thousands and thousands of years ago, and leading from there to mosaics and to Shakespeare and everyone. The Sanskrit states rules of being human. In other words, the human experience is defined thousands and thousands of years ago before writing occurred. And first it says you're given a body, which means you're here as a human. This is a human experience. The very next rule of being human is that life is about lessons. And the lessons will keep on coming until you learn them. The
Mm.
only way that human beings have learned lessons is through story.
Yeah.
And that is where people lose it. And there's a lot of, fake gurus out there, storytellers that are telling stories about telling
Yeah.
stories instead of talking about what we're talking about here, which is stories should only be told about what resonates with you, your essence,
Yeah.
because what you say is not what they hear. What they hear is what they feel and what meaning they give what they feel. So uh,
Oh
I'm
my gosh.
so excited about what you do and how you do
Thank
it. And
you.
I know I'm trying to work on Craig about telling stories in a better manner, but he's okay.
Well, I mean, I had Craig on my podcast. I had nothing but a good time, and I'll have to
He
have you.
bored the shit out of me.
You
So
know, you actually touched on so many things. My brain was like firing. I mean, the first thing you talked about was just having a kind of like a file of stories. I think this is actually really powerful for anybody listening because, um, a lot of our clients who come in, whether it's to write a book or a TED Talk or whatever it is, I ask them, what are the 10 most important inflection points in your life? And I think a lot of people think about more typical things like their wedding or their graduation or those big milestones that society sees as a milestone. But to me, the top 10 most big inflection points in my life are these nuanced little moments or conversations that change the way I think. I look back on my 10th birthday when my dad got me luggage and and his business wasn't doing well. And it was the first time I knew what money was because I threw a tantrum at 10 years old, upset that I got luggage for my birthday. And he looked at me with all this shame and said, I can't afford another gift. And it was the first time I realized, oh, money is this thing. And we have more fun in our family when it's around, and I get luggage when it's not. So, point being, everybody has these different memories and moments. And so, I would encourage anybody listening to write down what are those 10 moments in your life that if you look back from when you were a little kid that really shifted the way you think, and then separately from those, what are the lessons you learned from those moments that you really carry with you? Because professional speakers, and I could tell you've really been out there, um, are ones that have bits and bobs. That's the term. It's like these little stories on the shelf that we can like grab and use as we'd like to use them, and they're really, really powerful when you have them, and it sounds like you've put some work into it. And I think good storytellers kind of build and tend to that garden. Another thing you talked about that's super important from a personal development lens is, as storytellers, the most grand stories we tell are the ones in the secret and privacy of our mind, of our heart, and the ones that we believe and we say over and over and over again. And I know that this is truly the crux of personal development. And you also touched on something incredibly interesting that I'm still working through as a 37-year-old woman who has been doing personal development for 2 decades and has a graduate degree in psychology. I thought I've done the work because I have, but it never ends, and we all know that. But one thing you said was, about being angry and how frustration or unpleasant feelings are portals into growth, into really questioning your thoughts, into challenging your thoughts. And for the longest time, I was so grateful for all the development that I've done on my own mind and the stories I tell myself, that I was also not realizing, and I don't know if this is the case for you, that these triggers and these upsets and these moments for me, and this is something I don't know if I've ever really said, but in a lot of those moments, I was being a victim. Like, and that was really dark for me to look at, because a lot of people will get triggered, get upset. They'll be in a story about someone else. And like you were saying, it's an opportunity to heal, question the beliefs you have. You can either go into more againstness with somebody, or you can go more into love, right? We talk about fear versus love. I think a lot about how I used to have this neighbor in West Hollywood, and I don't think she really liked dogs. And there was a long time, I have this huge German Shepherd, so I'm the wrong neighbor to not like it. I have a 100-pound dog. And I remember being a little bit irritated that she would ask me to put a muzzle on my dog. She had all these requests. And for a while, I was triggered about it. And when I really look back, I was victimized about her, whatever she was going through about it. And what I could have done is gone into love, looked at the stories I was telling myself about her in the disconnect, and said, this is an opportunity for me to look at her and realize she's scared of dogs, and to have compassion that maybe something happened to her before. And that, you know, even though I know my dog's not going to do anything to her, I can meet her with love. So, I mean, we're just living in stories, and, you know, at the end of the day, they're all made up. So we might as well pick good ones,
Yeah.
you know, but
Or
yeah,
yeah, or taken from somewhere. Just real quick, two things before I have to go, Craigie
yeah.
Poo. Uh, yeah, I love am working with the 528, which is the frequency of love, and I always say give somebody some vitamin L. You know, when they give you hell, give them vitamin L, which is the highest frequency of a vitamin, which is love, and forgiveness is intertwined within that love. I do want to say one thing about stories that a lot of people, I'm old enough to be both of your dad, but one of the things I've learned about stories from being a dad is don't be afraid of telling the same story, especially on stage or on your videos. We have this false facade that we are amazing and that everybody knows us and knows our stories. And we also think that just because someone heard our story once, that it had so much impact on them that we don't ever want to tell that story again because it'll make us look bad. Just go to a Rolling Stones concert and watch how many people are pissed off if he doesn't sing Satisfaction. Or two, if you have little kids, see how pissed off they are if you don't read them their favorite story before they go to bed again and again and again. Or if you don't let them watch their favorite Aladdin, Disney movie or whatever again and again. So as a great speaker, not only do you need to teach lessons through your stories, you have to be annoying to yourself and be honest. Number one, like you said, honest with ourselves, which is really hard. And then two, you have to be repetitive. You have to be repetitive with your stories. Do not be afraid of telling the same goddamn story. Now, I never script out my stories. They're just a notation to a lesson. So the stories change. And sometimes I tell the stories better or more aligned with the audience. And sometimes I don't. But this is the cornerstone of what I coach people in, and you get it at such a young age. I wish I would have learned at 17 to start my journey, but unfortunately, everyone has their own skills, knowledge, and desire. And mine's not. My basement's much lower than yours. Anyway, Craig, you want to take this home because I got to
Yeah,
jump. I
same.
apologize.
No,
So good to
good.
be with you.
This is great. I was just gonna say, Ashley, what you were saying is there's always the thing that happens, and then the thing that we make it mean,
Right.
and you can make it mean something else. So
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I know our community is gonna be obsessed with you. Where can they get
Aw.
more involved, and how can they stay more in your
I'm
world?
Yeah.
obsessed.
Thanks, guys. I really love having you in my pocket. This is a self-esteem boost this morning. I'm on Instagram at Ashley Stahl. Send me a message. My book, U-Turn, Youturn, is all about reconnecting to yourself and figuring out your best career path. And the message in that book is don't do what you love, do what you are. And my goal is to help you figure out who you are and not just follow your passion, because I'm passionate about cupcakes. I'm a horrible baker. Like, being a good consumer of politics does not make you a good politician. So, for anybody out there that want to question those stories, I'm here for you. And thanks for having me, Craig and Dave. It's been awesome.
Beautiful. Great to see you. We'll connect after. Dave, thank you as always.
You got it, my
And I
brother.
hope you guys have an amazing
Bye,
You
weekend.
got it.
Love you
Reach
guys.
out to me, David at dmeltzer.com. See me at the Grammys or the Super Bowl if you're there. Just reach out. Thanks, guys.
Love you
Say
guys.
hi to Clint,
Bye bye.
Noah, and Nikki D.
Okay.